Welcome to the world of fantasy, the magical universe of fairy dust, the illusion of wealth and happiness. Welcome to the game of finance. Some individuals believe that money can grow on tree. Do you believe that money can grow on tree? Yes? No? So why all these banks, they have all these branches, huh? When we are speaking about money, some individuals, they believe money is evil, but others believe money is good. They want more. Some individuals are willing to sell their soul to the devil just to get more money. So what do you think? Do you think money is good or bad? They say money is like magic, can be used for good or can be used for bad. But some individuals believe if you are an honest man, hard worker, you can afford to buy bread. But if you are a wheeler dealer, manipulating everyone, you will own the bakery. So the question that I would like to ask you here today, is it okay for us to cheat, to manipulate the system for us to win in the game of life? Because today the amount of fraud that's happening globally is massive. If we look at our global GDP, last year it was 105 trillion. How much out of this do you think the amount of fraud that happened last year? What do you think? 1%? 2%? Actually, based on the Global Financial Crime Report published in 2024, they said that last year the amount of financial crime that happened, it was massive. How much? It was approximately 3 trillion US dollars. But when we want to break it down based on the countries and based on different schemes, we can see the amount of fraud out of it around 600 billion. And we can see the different types of schemes that happen all over the world. We are not only speaking about financial crimes. When we look at the amount of scams that happen all over the world, it's around $500 billion. And when we break it down, we can see exactly the different schemes that happen, the different scams related to different issues of payment fraud, related to advance fee scams, related to credit card, related to employment, related to check fraud, massive amount of fraud happening all over the world. Which is very interesting to see that fraud is increasing more and more. But what is really increasing massively, we can see cyber criminals. Last year, it was around more than $8 trillion the amount of cyber crimes activities that happen. And they are expecting this year to be more than 9 trillion. So we really need to be concerned about all these financial criminals that they are going and doing all this fraud in our financial system. Today, we are living at war. It's an actual war between you, anti-fraud professionals, financial professionals who are trying to understand all these different fraud schemes, all these different financial crimes, money laundering, tax evasion, and between these sophisticated financial criminals who are working with corrupted politicians, who are working with corrupted accountants, who are working with deceptive lawyers, and they are doing all these types of scams, all these types of money laundering, moving the money abroad, hiding the money, moving it offshore, hiding their taxes, and avoiding paying to investors, to the banks, bankrupting their companies and running away with the money. It's a real war that we need to figure out how can we fight against these financial criminals to stop them from doing all these crimes. But all started by a very simple concept. 150 years ago, there is nothing called corporations. Corporations started 150 years ago by creating a virtual entity. This virtual entity, it got so many extraordinary power over our life, over the last 50 years especially, because it moved from becoming a small corporation, running a small operation, into becoming what we call big business, big pharma, big tech. These companies are becoming like artificial monsters, controlling our life for one main objective, is making profit for their investors, for their executives, for their stakeholders. And what about us? Well, they are trying to cheat us. They are trying to cheat the banks. They are trying to cheat the investors. They are trying to cheat the government just for them to get more money, to maximize the wealth of their investors. Corporation is like a legal entity. They can buy, they can sell, they can sue, and they can be sued. But at the end of the day, they don't have any liability. Because the worst thing that you can do against a corporation is what? Is to say, sorry, what you are doing is illegal, and they will pay a fine. Or in case they are doing massive issue, you can shut them down. But at the end of the day, no one can be held accountable. It's only this artificial entity that we call it the corporation. And we can see recently the amount of issues happen against all these big organizations, these big tech companies that control our life, that no government in the world can shut them down because they cross jurisdictions. Over the big pharma who are creating all these medications that we discover later, they are not actually getting the right results because even the government can control what type of content they got inside these medications. We can look at these big businesses who are doing massive kind of products and manufacturing, and at the end of the day we discover their products are harming us. The worst thing that happened to all this big business, big tech, big pharma, is they paid fine. They said, we are sorry, it was a mistake, and they continue doing business as usual. And how much the fine they paid? It was a small percentage of the profit they made. It's a very dangerous world to see these executives running the business because their objective is very simple. Their objective is to maximize the wealth of their investors. And how they can do this? They are going to receive compensation based on one factor only. Are they generating profit? Look how interesting. Focusing on the bottom line. If you as an executive generate profit, you are gonna get more compensation. If you don't generate profit, you are not gonna get more compensation. So it's all about profit maximization. They are motivated by profit. This is what happened in Boeing and led to the downfall of Boeing when they say, let's focus on profit rather than safety. Let's focus on delivering the airline on time rather than making sure they don't have any technical issue. They are focusing on the results rather than focusing on providing the actual and outstanding service to the customers, looking at the satisfaction of their employees, looking at how they can help the society. Their motivation is on cost minimization, on making business decisions that will cut costs, increase profit at in any way possible. And these executives, because they are motivated by profit, they will find any way possible for them to increase profit, right? They say profit can be sweet even if it's coming from deception. And this is why these individuals, they are willing to sell you anything at any cost. They say a rich man will sell you a rope to hang him if he will make additional dollar from it. And this is what's happening with these executives. These executives who are doing massive fraud and corruption inside our organization. And we call these executives are the corrupted CEOs. You know what CEO stands for, right? If you don't know, this is what stands for. Cheat everyone. They are cheating the investors. I'm speaking about the corrupted CEOs. They are cheating the bankers. They are cheating the customers. They are cheating their employees. They are cheating our society. And at the end of the day, after they cheat everyone, they are getting this executive compensation. How much executive compensation these executives are receiving? Based on recent survey, average salary of a CEO in the West is around 15 million. Some of them, it will go up to more than 100 million. The question here, are they overcompensated? What kind of value they are bringing to the table? Or are they receiving their compensation by cheating the financial reports, by manipulating their operation, by creating products that are not actually gonna work, but they launch it today, and until 5 years, until we see it in the pipeline, they already receive their compensation and they run away. Or by creating a startup where they go and get money from investors, they enrich themselves by giving them so much compensation, and then they say, sorry, we failed, they bankrupt. Or by getting money from investors and customers, and then saying, sorry, the product is not gonna be launched, and we bankrupt. And this is unfortunately the world we are living in. These executives who are doing massive amount of fraud, they are receiving massive compensation. And they are motivated by very simple thing. Let's satisfy the criteria for our compensation, which is if you generate more profit, if you have revenue, regardless if you have cash at the end of the day, regardless if this organization is gonna sustain over a long term, we are gonna give them so much money as compensation. So this is a big challenge because if you are compensating executive solely based on profit, executive can do anything for profit. This is why the situation got out of control. The compensation of executive became more than 100, 200 the salary of an employee. And the question here, what kind of value they are bringing to the table? are they deserving all this compensation? This is why in US in 1993, they said for CEOs, their compensation should not exceed more than $1 million related to their operation. So as a bonus, you will not get more than $100 related to achieving the profit and revenue. The minute this happened, companies, they told executive, don't worry. We are going to give you compensation based on something else. Based on what? We are going to give you compensation based on the share value. And even shareholders, they were happy with that. Why? They say if you generate profit, revenue, if you are creating new products, if customers are happy, we don't care. We as investors, we care about one thing, looking at the share value and seeing it going up and up and up. This is why we are going to compensate you as CEO, not on achieving profit. Yeah, we will give you a small percentage, but on showing the share value going up. And now executives, they say, so you don't care if I generate revenue, profit, if we have products, not as long as the value of the share will go up, I get more money? They said, yes, that's correct. So he said, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Now I can find so many ways for me to increase the value of the share. As simple as that. I don't need to generate profit. I don't need to do anything. I just need to find a way to show to the market that this company worth more. And in that way, the value of the shares will go up. Because what is the market trading? It's all about demand and supply. If investors will see or believe this company is profitable, they believe. They don't have to actually see profit. If they believe this company is going to generate profit in the future, or if they see the financial report and they will believe the fictitious numbers there, the fictitious revenue, the fictitious assets, they are going to go and buy. And the minute they buy, the value of the shares will go up. And this is exactly what happened. Some individuals, they say business will follow the market value. And this is what Warren Buffett said. Say if a business is doing well, the stock eventually will follow. But is this true? Is it actually the market will follow? The answer, yes, if we are living in perfect market. But we are living in a market full of manipulation, of corruption. And we see executives, the minute that you want to invest in their organization, they are going to go and manipulate the financial reporting to show that they have more assets, more revenue. Or they try to minimize the cost. They try to minimize the liability, the expenses. And this is what executives did in so many organizations. They went and they reduced the amount of expenses they have, or they increase the revenue and profit to show you that they are doing great. And in that way, they receive all their compensation. Or some of them, like Wells Fargo, they manipulated something even more. With Wells Fargo, what they did, they said, we need to increase the number of customers. So the CEO of Wells Fargo went to everyone and said, listen, we want every customer to have 8 accounts with us. And he told the staff, this is what you have to do. And then after that, all the employees, they say, okay, let's try to achieve this. But how can we achieve this? How can we make every customer get 8 accounts? They start calling their friends, calling their families. Imagine over the span of 5 years, more than 5,000 employees, they committed more than 2 million fraudulent transactions to increase the number of customers. And at the end, do you believe this is massive fraud or not? 5,000 employees doing 2 million fraudulent transactions. The CEO of Wells Fargo, when he was testifying in front of the Congress, he said, no, this is a minor issue. Why? Because this represents less than 1% of our employees. And don't worry, we had fired them. Then the Congress said, wait, what about you as a CEO? During the same period, because the number of customers increased, the number of accounts increased, you receive compensation of more than 150 million. Are you going to return this money? He said, no. This compensation, I deserve it. So he kept the compensation, he kept his job, and he fired the employees who he pushed to do the fraud. So today, for us to increase the value of the shares, we need to show more profit, or we need to show more customers, more product, for us to manipulate the market. So in that way, for us as executive, we can get more compensation. And at the end of the day, Wells Fargo, they had to pay more than 186 million fine and pay hundreds of millions as compensation for the investors who lost money. So at the end of the day, the executives didn't do the fraud. They pushed low-level employees to do the fraud, and they benefited, and then the organization lost. So we can see the different types of way of these financial criminals who are doing the fraud. They are not gonna make their hands dirty. They are not gonna have bloody hands, or what we call criminal hands. They are gonna make others do the crime, and they will get the gain from it, which is interesting. Or they are going to use stock options, like what happened in BlackBerry. BlackBerry, the CEO of BlackBerry, for him to attract talent to his organization, he told them, I will give you $10 million compensation, but not now, in stock options. The meaning, I will go and backdate the stock options for you. So I will say we signed the agreement long time ago related to the stocks, and if the value of the stock will increase, you will make money. So you are already manipulating the investors, because if you are going to do stock options, you need to do it based on today contract. What is the day today? How much is the price today? And for future increase. But he went and he backdated the contract to appear that they happened 1 year, 2 years, 3 years before. So in that way, definitely they are going to receive the money. And he was involved in one of the largest stock option backdating fraud case. So we can see even compensation for executive can be manipulated with. But the question here, during the years between 2006 and 2011, more than, listen to this number, 600 major firms in US, they manipulated their financial reporting. And no one from the executives who are working inside the organization went to the government and reported, even if they are not involved in the fraud. So the question here, why? Why all these executives who are working inside organizations, that they are aware that top management or accountant or financial professionals are manipulating financial report? Why none of them went to the government and blew the whistle? Said, listen, there's something going on, our financial reports are being manipulated. Because the executive inside the organization, they receive compensation. Top management or corrupted individuals or the guys in the financial department who are doing the fraud, they went to management and they said, listen, these guys on the bottom, they are going to go and report that we are doing fraud. So what is the solution? The solution is very simple. How about we give them some stock options? So if we give them some stock options, they are not going to go and blow the whistle on us. And this is exactly what happened. Based on a study by Harvard Business Review, a stock option was used for a way to pay money to low-level executive or to different executive inside our organization to be quiet, to not say anything about what fraud or manipulation was happening inside the organization. This is why in US they created what we call Dodd-Frank Act in 2010 for the government to say, if you discover any kind of fraud or corruption inside your organization, you can blow the whistle and you will get percentage of the compensation. And since the inception of this act, so many whistleblowers, they came forward to the government and they reported fraud, and some of them received millions. Even one of them received more than $30 million for blowing the whistle on the fraud inside their organization. This is why for any government it's important to go and give incentives to individuals inside the organization to come forward with information and report fraud. Otherwise, executives inside the organization, they are going to give them compensation just to stay quiet. And this is the challenge we are facing. So what is the proper way of giving compensation to these executives? If we say in the beginning, profit is a challenge because they are going to manipulate the profit. The value of the stock is challenge. What about creating a different way of giving compensation? Like what Elon Musk said. He said, I will go and focus on different way of achieving profit and increasing the value of the shares, hitting targets. If I hit these targets, I will get compensation. Then he was able to hit all these targets. Then he received compensation more than 55 billion. What do you think? Do you think Elon Musk deserved the 55 billion for hitting the targets? And what kind of targets he hit? Are they reasonable? And even if they are reasonable, is he really deserving to have 55 billion? Maybe he should get 50 million, 100 million, 300 million. But why 55 billion? This is what some of the investors questioned Tesla when they said, wait, who determined these targets? Well, the board of directors determined. Okay, who determined the compensation for this target? Well, the board of directors determined. And who controlled the board of directors? This guy, Elon Musk. So they say this is conflict of interest. Someone saying, I am going to make the target so easy to achieve, and I'm going to make the compensation massive, and then I will hit the target because I determined them. So they went and they decided to sue Tesla and Elon Musk, saying that actually we as investor, we didn't determine these targets and the compensation. Elon Musk did because he controlled the board of directors. Then they were able to get a judge order to say, Elon Musk, you are not entitled for the 55 billion. Then Elon Musk, he sued back and he was able to get the money. The question here is not about his compensation. The question is, how should we compensate our executives? Because if you are executive working at the top of the organization, increasing your profit, your compensation, managing the operation by lowering the salary, the wages of the staff, by squeezing the customers, by manipulating the bank, by going and doing everything to cut costs and increase the profit, and at the end of the day, you are getting more compensation, but everyone else is suffering. Is this the right way of running a business? Shouldn't we compensate CEO based on different factors, like what about the morale of the staff? What about the quality of the product? What about the satisfaction of the customer? What about sustainability and the effort to increase the value inside our society? What about the value that your product and organization adding to our economy? And what about the profit? What about the share value? So today we can see so many organizations, they have different way of compensating executives. Not by giving them one criteria, one indicator, one factor, one result they need to achieve. Otherwise, they will find a way to manipulate the system to achieve it. Because the compensation of our executives today reached to a maximum degree. Imagine today, some organization executives are receiving 360 or maybe 500 the salary of an employee. The meaning the salary of an employee for 1 year, executives are getting it in 1 day. And this is why we can see these executives are overpaid, overvalued. What kind of value they bring to the table compared to the compensation they are receiving? And that's the big question. CEO compensation today, it's massive. And the question here, should we go and acquire this organization? And this is what some institutional investors are doing. They are acquiring this organization where CEOs' compensation represent 30% of the cost. And they are firing the CEOs, getting new CEOs, lowering their compensation, and they were able to make this organization profitable again. Now let's speak about the global wealth. How much do you think our global wealth today? What's the meaning global wealth? All the money you have in the bank, all the assets that you have, the car, the houses, all the value of the stock market, all the gold we have. What do you think our global wealth today? They say based on the global wealth report that published last year, we can see that our global wealth today, it was in 2023, around 454 trillion, which is interesting. But we are living in the world and we are around 7 billion individuals. Is it this divided equally? The answer is no. Listen to this, based on the report. Imagine 45% of our global wealth, around 200 trillion, controlled by 1% of the population. So how do you know if you are part of this 1%? If you have a global wealth, if all your money, all your houses, after taking out all your liability, is more than $1 million, congratulations! You are a wealthy individual. You are part of this 1%. But look at this, more than 52% of our world population, the meaning 3.5 billion, they control only 1.2% of the global wealth. So they are below $10,000 in global wealth, unfortunately. So the question, I'm not speaking here about if capitalism is good for our life. I'm not speaking here about if life is fair. I'm speaking about, is this situation that we are in today a result that these guys are not working hard and these other guys are working very hard? Or there are some players, some dealers in the market who were able to manipulate the financial market, who were able to benefit from taking advantage of the system? And that's the big question. Definitely, there are so many individuals on the top, they worked hard and they achieved their money. But at the same time, based on so many research, they say around 7 trillion to 36 trillion of our global GDP that we have, which is around 10% on average, every year is going to these corrupted individuals who are hiding their money, who are manipulating the market, which is interesting. And they are using different types of money laundering, different types of financial vehicle, different type of operation, of corruption for them to be able to hide and move their money globally. But at the same time, bankers who are operating inside our world, the corrupted bankers I'm speaking about, they help these individuals in doing all this fraud. What we call these corrupted bankers, we call them the banksters, the banking mafia, who help these individuals in moving the money all over the world, hiding their money, opening offshore accounts, opening a bank account without figuring out who is the ultimate beneficiary, hiding the source of income, manipulating financial statement and bank statements. These banksters help all these criminals in moving the money. And look where this money moved. This money moved to different countries, from Switzerland to Hong Kong to Singapore, even in the US. These bankers, they are helping these financial criminals in hiding their money and in doing all these types of fraud and corruption. And at the end of the day, when we catch one of these bankers or one of these banks, they will never plead guilty. They say, sorry, it was a compliance issue. We were not looking at the financial statement properly. Our staff, they were not trained enough. At the end of the day, they are not going to plead guilty. They are going to say, we don't have any criminal liability. We are not involved in these money laundering schemes or corruption or financial fraud. We are actually having negligence. So we are sorry for what we have done, because it was a mistake, and we are going to pay the fine, but we are not going to serve the time. We are not going to admit guilt. And which is very interesting. There is no global bank in the world at the end of the day say we are guilty. They say it was a mistake, it was a compliance issue, it was regulatory mistake, and at the end of the day we are going to pay the fine, but they will not serve the time. But at the end of the day, they are going to compensate, like what happened with Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff, he did the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world, where he was able over 30 years to do a Ponzi scheme for more than 65 billion. The question here, which bank he was doing business with, huh? Because the bank that he's doing business with, he helped him. Imagine, Bernie Madoff got no operation, and he's receiving billions and he's giving billions. The question, which bank was allowing him to receive billions and sending billions globally without asking questions to Bernie Madoff? Where is the money coming from? What's the reason? Doesn't look like you have any operation. Well, it was JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase helped Bernie Madoff in doing the biggest multi-billion dollars Ponzi scheme in the world. So at the end, the victims and the government said, you as a bank, as JP Morgan, you had to compensate victims for their losses. And at the end of the day, JP Morgan Chase, they paid 1.7 billion compensation for the victims who lost their money. And this is what we can see, that at the end of the day, banks can be only accountable by paying a fine for them to help the biggest Ponzi scheme fraud ever happened, which is really interesting. Now, when we see the world we are living in, do you believe in the concept of unicorn? Do you believe that unicorn exists? What do you think? Have you seen any unicorn? Of course, you have seen so many unicorn around. What do we mean by unicorn? Unicorn are companies who are quickly was able to do what? Was able to actually generate so much money. These are the companies who were able to grow quickly from nothing to become multi-billion dollars, like Facebook, like we see organizations like ChatGPT, like Tesla, like Instagram, all these organizations who were able to grow very quickly. But some individuals, they were able to do this by tricking in investors. Like what happened in what we call wishful thinking. They are going and they are telling investors, I believe my company can grow. So what's the definition of wishful thinking? Is the tendency where to see certain things in a positive way. Say, I'm going to create my new products and my new products is going to make so much money. But is it going to actually make the money or not? We don't know. It's only the tendency to say, listen, I have a great idea. How about we do solar panels over cars? How about we do this? How about we do that? Especially in renewable energy, we have so many individuals came up with wishful thinking, where they are going to create one renewable energy and they are going to convert it into another. And all the investors, because they don't have the technical understanding, they believe them and they invested their money with them. At the end, they lost all their money. And unfortunately, in the world we are living in, everyone is going to come up with this idea. Listen, I have a very nice product, a very nice solution. We can make billions. We can be the next unicorn. How about you invest your money with us? And because we are looking at all these big investment, like everyone say, you have not invested in Uber at the early stages, you lost. You have not invested in Amazon at early stages, you lost. So all of us, we are looking for the next big idea, and we would like to get this investment. Like what we happened in a company called WeCrashed, where the CEO of WeWork, he was doing one of the largest fraud in his organization, and no one held him accountable. He will go, after he found his organization, WeWork, if you are not familiar, is a co-working space. So in that way, he will go rent huge floors in different cities all over the world, and he will allow individuals to have a subscription for them to use the facility, which is a really interesting concept. But what he did, which is really interesting, he was able to do fraud against his organization by going to his organization and borrowing money at an interest rate lower than the market value, then going renting these offices before his organization will rent, then he re-rented to his organization at inflated cost. So do you think he did the fraud? He borrowed money from his organization to work against the benefit. There's a conflict of interest. The answer, no, he didn't do fraud, because he disclosed that to the executives, to the board of directors, and even they wrote it notes in the financial statement that the CEO is taking advantage of us. There's conflict of interest. So as long as you disclose your conflict of interest, as long as you disclose your fraud, it's not a fraud anymore, which is interesting. But not only that, he went and he took the name of the company, and he converted it into a trademark, and he sold the trademark to his organization for millions. And also they disclosed it to the investors. So for so many years, he was not able to generate even $1 profit for his organization. His organization was reporting hundreds of millions of losses annually. At the end of the day, he was able to benefit from all these schemes. I don't want to say scams, schemes. And at the end of the day, they told him, we don't want you anymore inside the organization. They told him, okay, now we would like to get rid of you. But to get rid of you, we are going to give you 1.7 billion in stock value and cash and credits. Just to walk away, just for us to fire you. For not generating any money over 7 years and for doing all these types of schemes inside our organization. At the end of the day, WeWork was not able to sustain itself and is now in the process maybe of bankruptcy, or they are going to shut down the shop. At the end of the day, all investors lost the money, all the employees they lost, but the founder who created this unicorn made a lot of money, which is interesting to see. Executives, they are doing all different types of manipulation and corruption, but they are doing it legally by disclosing to the investors. Or what happened in the case of Uber. Uber was actually coloring outside the line. The government told Uber, you are not allowed to operate, you are not a taxi business. What the CEO of Uber said, he said, how about we go and operate and we don't let the government know? So he created something very interesting called what? Called Greyball. So Greyball is a way for Uber for them to cheat the government, where if the government official will open his app to see Uber, he will not see it. If someone working with the government will open the app, will not see it. So they don't know that Uber is operating. But if you as a user open it in the street, you'll see. So they will able to go inside the app and see who's using the app and plug the users that they want you to have. Not only that, they created something called Hell, which is another program for them to go after their competitors, to be able to recruit their drivers, to be able to plug their business, so they control the market. Over so many years, they were involved in so many types of market manipulation for them to be able to gain more customers, for them to deceive the government. At the end, the government discovered that at a later stage, but now they can't stop Uber. So Uber was able to become legally operating in so many countries all over the world. And what happened after all this manipulation and harassment that done by executive management? The executive management, they say, sorry, we don't want you to be anymore running Uber, and this is why we are gonna go and fire you for all these, fake book rights that you allowed, for all this false advertisement campaign, for spying on politicians and celebrities, for creating all these programs, and we are going to give you a compensation of 2 billion just for you to leave the organization. Interesting. This is the world we are operating in today, where executives are receiving the money, and not only that, the investors who went and invested with them to run WeWork or to run Uber, they went again to invest with the same individuals. They say it's easier to fool individual compared to convince them they've been fooled. So many individuals, they believe this guy is not a fraudster. He made a mistake. I'm going to invest with him again. Maybe the next one is going to be big. Unfortunately, we can see that all these individuals who are white-collar criminals, they are not getting any kind of punishment. And why this is happening? Because the government, they don't have so much resources to go after these white-collar criminals. Usually they go after their organizations. They go after the big corporations because they know at the end of the day, this guy who did the fraud or the corruption or the crime, what is he going to do? He may go to prison, and we are going to spend so much of government resources. Compare if we go after the corporations, at the end of the day, we can stop the corporation from operating. And this is much more profitable for us to stop the corporation compared to stop who? To stop the actual person. But not only that, these individuals who are doing the fraud and corruption, after the government will go after them, what will happen to them? They become what we call celebrities. We call them, they will become white-collar crime celebrities. We call them scam influencer. We call them in another term infamous. What's the meaning infamous? They are famous for doing bad thing. And because they are famous for doing bad thing, they can go and they can brag about it. They make Netflix movie about it. They can go and they can write a book about it. They go all over the country speaking about how they were so smart in doing the fraud, and then they will open their own consulting firm to help organization in making sure fraud will not happen in their operation. So these individuals who are doing the fraud, after doing the fraud, they became celebrities, and we like to go and take photo with them saying, this is the biggest fraudster in the world. It was very nice to meet him, unfortunately. How these individuals, they are doing fraud? By creating what we call Vaporware. So what's the meaning of Vaporware? It's a product created for the purpose of tricking investors. So someone creating a product that they know at the end of the day, the product is not going to work. There is no actual solution or technology. But they just announced, we have created the new technology, but the technology actually doesn't exist, which is interesting. Like what happened with Edison. When Edison went and he said, look, we have a light bulb. And everyone said, wow, we have a light bulb. And we believe that he got a light bulb. He was showing us a bulb that's not working. Then he went to his team. He said, listen, I just made an announcement that we have the light bulb. Make sure we do it. Thank God he was able to do the light bulb. But unfortunately, so many entrepreneurs who came with an idea about a concept, it was not true. This is why we say the definition of fraud is the violation of trust. If I trust you and I believe that the next idea you are going to give me, the next solution, the next technology is going to work, and then I give you my money, then I work with you, I invest with you, a bank will give you loans, and then we discover it's all fake, it's all scam, we are going to lose our money. Fraud is a violation of trust. Like what happened in so many cases like Nikola 1. Nikola 1 came and he said, listen, we have created one of the most powerful trucks, is working on hydrogen technology. And everyone say, wow, hydrogen technology. He said, yes, we are going to eliminate the need for using, all this kind of renewable energy that's really expensive, that's not effective. Our trucks are going to be running on hydrogen technology where you can use the truck for 1,000 miles without need to stop. Because remember, one of the issues with the trucks that they have to stop to refuel. Now, no, you can run. You can operate at a low cost, at a renewable energy, with low maintenance. Then he was showing a demo for this truck being driven using hydrogen technology. But investors, they don't know. He didn't invent any hydrogen technology. There is no technology at all. He took the truck and put it on the top of the hill and made the gravity take it down. There is no actual technology in the truck. He tricked investors, he tricked even customers, he tricked companies to order, and the value of his company went more than 30 billion US dollars. Until we discover after everything that that truck is only a shell. There is nothing inside. Nikola One valued his company more than 34 billion for electric truck that's running on hydrogen technology, but actually the truck is not actually working. Very interesting. Some individuals believe, what about the stock market? Can we make money in investing in the stock market? They say the stock market is different completely than economy. What we study in school about economy and about the stock market and the value is completely different. Because stock market is controlled by what? By demand and supply. It's controlled by these traders who are trading in the market. And these traders who are trading in the market, they are not like you and me. They have advantage. They are using what we call hollow core fiber technology, which is the next generation of fiber optic, where they will be able to transact their transaction faster than us. They are using what we call glass cable for them to carry out the data much faster than us at the beam of lights. So in that way, when the market is crashing, they will get out faster. When the market is going up, they will get in faster. They were able to take advantage of any squeeze in the stock market, and they take advantage of it. Compared for us as individuals, it's difficult for us to do that. Not only that, when we are speaking about economy and the stock market, sometimes they are different. Why? Because when we speak about economy, like my friend who is working as a professor in the economy, he told me, Iyad, listen, I have so many problems. I said, no issue. I found a book on Amazon saying if you buy this book, you will solve 50% of your problem. He said, good idea. I will buy 2 copies, I will solve 100%. It doesn't work this way. But unfortunately, individuals who are analysts, who are analyzing the market, economists, they don't understand that the market actually is not controlled by you and me. We are the players. It's controlled by the dealers. They decide how the market will go up, how the market will go down, and they will always make the money. We sometime will make the money, but they control completely the market. They are the traders. So the question here for you, when we are valuing the future of a company, based on what we decide the worth of a company, based on the share price multiplied by the shares, or based on the present value of future cash flow? What do you think? You can write in the chat, is it based on A, the share price multiplied by the number of shares, or based on B, the present value of future cash flow? What do you think? Yes, I know so many of you saying, what we study in school, if we study accounting, if we study managerial accounting, if we study finance, we believe the correct answer is B. So many of you answer B, I'm sure of it. And that's the incorrect answer. Because the actual value of a company is the number of shares multiplied by the share value. What investors, they value the market value for this company now, today. It's not about this future unbelievable solution that are going to happen or not going to happen, or this future revenue or cash or profit that the organization will generate. We don't know. It's only fictitious things that's going to happen in the future, and we don't know if it's going to happen or not. But they trick us all the time, like what happened in the .com. When the .com happened and all these companies in 2000, they say, we are going to move to the internet. Immediately, all the investors, they say, wow, there's a company doing mortgage in one city. Now they created a website called mortgage.com. So now they're gonna do mortgage all over the US. So now the value of the company went from millions to hundreds of millions. Why? Because they are gonna offer in the future mortgages over the internet, and they are gonna have in the future so much money, so much profit. But we are not sure. This is why so many investors invested in all this .com, we call them company, where they trick all the investors and they took the money. At the end of the day, they couldn't launch the product, they couldn't get the customers, there's no profit, and nothing happened, and the company bankrupted. It's always happening all the time. Like what happened with GameStop. GameStop is a company about to bankrupt. Why? Because no one is going anymore to the game shop to buy CD or DVD or consoles. We are doing it over the internet. We are doing it from Amazon. So this company is about to bankrupt. So the big financial institutions, they say, we need to make money from the bankruptcy of this firm. How? We do short selling. What's the meaning short selling? We are going to go and say, if the company will bankrupt or the value for it will go down, we will make so much money. So when they decided to do short selling, because that makes sense, the company is going to bankrupt, they are not going to make more money, they are losing. The players who used in the old days to buy from them, they were not happy about it. They say, oh, they are taking down our lovely company that we used to buy from, and they are making money from it. They say, how about we go against them? So imagine the customers, they decided to go and buy the shares of GameStop to make sure the share will go up, regardless if the company is generating profit or not. So in that way, these institutional investors, they will lose money. And they were successful. They start buying and buying and buying and buying, and now the value of the shares went up 10%, 20%, 30%, 100%. When this happened, all the investors in the market, they say, something is not right. The value of this share of this company who's about to bankrupt, who's generating losses, is going up. Let's also buy. So everyone starts buying because they believe the value is going to go up. Then the value went up 20%, 200%. The value went up to 1,700% for a company that's about to bankrupt. It became valued at billions, that company worth nothing, just because the investors decided to buy. Do you think the big financial institutions, they will lose the game? The answer is no. They are the dealers. So they went and they influenced the platform to not allow any more investors to buy. So when you go, you want to buy, there's no option to buy, only option to sell. So what do you think happened? Everything collapsed. All investors, they noticed, oh, we can't buy anymore. Oh my God, we need to get our profit now. So they sold until the value of the company collapsed. They are the market manipulators. They are the dealers. They decide exactly how things will be done. So at the end of the day, don't expect that if you are trading in the stock market, you are going to make money. Sometime. But who is going to always make the money? The big market maker. Blackstones, they are going to make the money because they control the market. You are not going to benefit from any dead cat bounce like what happened here. All the way to the moon where the company will go up, because at the end of the day, they are going to determine at what price they are going to allow to go, at what price they are going to sell it out, which is interesting. So also when we are speaking about understanding the economy, some individuals believe financial crisis is something like a black swan, which is the concept that all swans are white until we discover one black swan and we say, oh, we are shocked. Financial crisis exactly was like this. We were shocked. Something happened suddenly and the whole market frozen. Banks collapsed. The answer is no. This is not something happened suddenly. We were aware of this. This is why they created a very nice concept called Dragon King. With the Dragon King, they said, we can see some indicators. Banks are giving loans to unqualified borrowers. We can see the inflation in the value of the houses. We can say there's a bubble in the market. We can say there's so much movement of money. We can say someone is selling all these loans as investment funds. So based on all these indicators, we have some information to show that there is a crisis going to happen. There is financial disaster on the way. So this is why always economists, they will try to convince us with this black swan concept that what happened we are not aware of. Compare actually, if you look at an indicator for you as a professional, you can say there are so many indicators they will show you something will happen. Like you as a fraud professional, there's nothing called sudden fraud. We can see some indicator. The employee is having unbelievable lifestyle. We can see the system is not controlled properly. We can see there's manipulation. All these indicators, if we monitor them at early stages, we will be able to uncover the fraud before it happened or when it's about to happen. Not like after 10 years when we discover that the employee left the organization. So let's speak about one of the largest financial fraud that happened in history. In US, what happened in US? In US after 2008, everyone said there is no more investment opportunity in US. So they say, what can we do? They say, how about we go invest in China? But actually you can go and invest in China. Why? Because in US you can list Chinese companies. They say, how about we go and rent the names of American companies? So American companies who were listed in the old days in the stock market, they went and they rented their name to go and buy this Chinese company. So we call this reverse merger. A company listed in the stock market in US went and bought a company in China, and they relisted themselves in the stock market saying that we are an American company, but we are operating in China. How many of these firms they did this? Only around 400 firms in US, they listed themselves as American company operating in China offshore, running all these factories. And they trick the investors by telling investors, let's take you trip. So they take the investors to China, they show them everything is happening, and look how great the operation, but actually there is no actual operation. At the end of the day, the bankers, they trick the investors because bankers, they are aware when they created the prospectus, but they say it's up for the investors to do their proper due diligence. The regulators, they were aware of what happened, and at the end, when investors discovered that these companies are fake companies, they don't have any operation, they don't have any revenue, no profit, the whole thing collapsed from this big bubble. And how much these investors, they lost money? The investors, they only lost more than 100 billion US dollars, which is interesting to see exactly, all these types of scams that happen all over the world. So when we are speaking about, these different scams, you need to understand, always the dealers are making the money. The investors, they lost the money. And what happened with these dealers? At the end of the day, these financial institutions who did the biggest financial crimes in the world, what they did, the US and European banks who did all this misconduct, they paid over the last 10 years around 400 billion fines. Look how much financial crimes they did. They did major legal action violation, which is related to financial crime, related to money laundering, related to financial misconduct, related to different financial schemes. And at the end of the day, Bank of America, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, what happened? They just paid the fine. There is no admit of guilt. They say, we are sorry for not doing the proper compliance. Next time we will try to do it much better. And at the end of the day, they pay the fine and they move on. Which is very interesting to see. That at the end of the day, financial institutions are not going to be held accountable for what they did. They are going to just say, sorry, all these financial schemes that we have done, it was actually a mistake. It was actually, we didn't do the proper compliance. We are not monitoring our staff. We are going to fire the staff. We're going to implement more compliance program, but we are not actually doing fraud. These are the corrupted individuals who are doing it. Then they will say, next time when we discover another financial crime, say, we are sorry again, and they pay the fine. And the game will continue. Very interesting. What about the different financial crimes that's happening today in this financial system? Today we can see so much money laundering, so much financial crime happening all over the world. Like we saw in the beginning of our presentation, $3 trillion financial crime last year only. Different types of corruption can happen and can lead to money laundering, like what happened in the old case between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, where 11 staff of UAE Exchange, they received a bribe to facilitate the movement of the money, around 930 million US dollars, around 1 billion moved. Or we can see different cases where different individuals working together to do one of the largest money laundering case that happened in Saudi Arabia for 3 billion fraud rings. Or we can see other bigger scams that happened by Danske Bank. So Danske Bank went and acquired a bank in Estonia. And this bank in Estonia got more than 99% of the customers as non-Russian citizens. So they are not living in Estonia. They are Russian citizens, but they don't live in Estonia. And they are moving their money from Russia to Estonia to Europe using this bank. How much money they moved? Over the span of 4 years, they moved more, listen to this number, than 229 billion. My God. So you can imagine the amount of money Then the bank said, we are sorry, we were not doing the proper supervision. We are having 99% of our customers that are non-residents, Russian, and they paid the fine. And they say, we will change our practices. Or like what happened with one of the largest US bank, Wachovia Bank, where Wachovia Bank was involved in one of the largest money laundering schemes between Mexico and between US. They were moving more than $380 billion from drug dealers between Mexico and US. Even the president of Mexico say, hey, this is so much money. This is around 50% of our GDP. So you can imagine the amount of fraud and corruption that happened. And who is facilitating this? We call it the banksters, the financial institutions who are doing all these crimes. They are using money laundering to move the money. And there are different techniques they are using for money laundering. They are moving gold. They are using gold to move the money. They are using diamond. Also, they are using cryptocurrency, right? They are using cryptocurrency to move all this money. But when with the cryptocurrency, they believe no one can track them. Today, because cryptocurrency is regulated by so many so many crypto exchanges, the government can get some information. So what they are doing, they are using what we call crypto mixer. They are taking different crypto coins and they are creating a mix of it, and then they are creating new coins where no one can track it. We call it crypto laundering. The same way we speak about money laundering, they are doing crypto laundering, so no one will track them. Also, they are using different types of fraud schemes because they believe if they are gonna go and manipulate the market, no one will catch them. But you need to really be careful because these fraudsters who are running away with their money to be able to hide it from the government, sometimes they are trusting the wrong fraudster. So they say the best fraud is when a fraudster will steal from another. Why? Because he will understand the pain of being a victim. So be careful in trusting this crypto market because crypto market is the biggest scam ever in history. Because it's based on what? Based on fictitious, based on so many players who are operating in the market and they are actually cheating their users. Like what happened with the Mark. Marcus, what he did, he said, if you want to go and buy crypto coin, buy Bitcoin, for example, you are going to buy it for what reason? He said, you are going to go buy it for you to go and sell it later. So imagine you buy Bitcoin and keep it for 3 months, then you sell it later, you make money. He said, banks are not your friend. If you have money in the bank will give you what? 1%, less than 1% interest rate. But I am your friend. If you have a Bitcoin, how about you give this Bitcoin to me? So I will keep these Bitcoins and I will give you 8% return annually on your Bitcoin. So in that way, you will not lose anything. Rather than you have your Bitcoin in your digital wallet, give me your Bitcoin in my digital wallet. I will go and lend it to individuals who need it. I will do different type of investment with it. And later, when you need it, I will give it back to you and I give you 8%. So everyone say, wow, that's great. Really, it's a good idea. Then they give him the money, their Bitcoins. How much money they give him? They give him more than 20 billion US dollars. At the end of the day, we discovered that he was not giving them the 8%. It was a big scam and he was using it to do some kind of gambling and he lost all the money and his company bankrupted. The investors got nothing. Or we can see what happened with FTX. When the founder, we discovered that he was running a very nice operation where he's taking the money from consumers' accounts and he is moving the money to his own firm and moving the money to different organizations. At the end of the day, when their organization bankrupted, investors and customers couldn't get any of their money. Investors lost, which is interesting, and the customers lost their money that they have in this exchange. Cryptocurrency is a very good way for you to do different types of scams to manipulate the market, like what happened with Binance when they manipulated the market, when the market crashed. Because we can see in what happened in cryptocurrency between 2021 and June 2022, the market, the cryptocurrency crashed from 3 trillion to 1 trillion. But during this crash, Binance, they didn't allow investors to make money. On the opposite side, they make them lose money. So if you are saying the market is going to crash, they are not allowing you to liquidate your position, so you couldn't make money. And if you have positions and you want to liquidate because the market is going to crash, they didn't allow you to liquidate your position, so you are losing money. So the market dealer, the exchanges, they make the money, but the investors, they lose the money. We call it market manipulation, which is really interesting. At the end of the day, the individuals who are controlling the game always will win. The same thing happened with what we call the fintech. All these fintech that were created and they accounted for more than 1 billion US dollars. And at the end of the day, the value for it went down more than 93% after 2 years. So there are so many scams happening in the world, but today we are living in the digital world. All our money are in the bank. And this is why investors, they understand that because all their money in the bank, who is going to do the next fraud against them? Is not a guy coming with a bank to the bank with a gun. It's this guy. We call him cyber criminal. It's not anymore the fraudster. It's the cyber criminal. There's a very nice movie called Hot Millions, and this movie was created in 1968. So imagine, long time ago, this guy who used to come to the bank with a gun to steal, he said, for me to steal from the bank, I need to work in the IT department because the money is not in the safe, the money is inside the bank. We can see today, the US currency, 95% of the US currency is inside the system. It's not anymore cash we have in our hands. So for you to steal from banks, to steal from big organizations, what you need to do, you need to hack to these banks. You need to go like what happened in Carbanak attack the back-end system of the bank and control their assets, control their machines, control their back-end, and you will be able to steal the money. And like we saw in the beginning of our presentation, today, cyber crimes accounting for more than 8 trillion and is increasing massively. So at the end, the worst thing that can happen to our life is what we call the ultimate cyber attack. The ultimate cyber attack when hackers will go and attack our system, attack the government system, attack the banking system, attack our online operation. What happened? No one will have to pay any loan ever because all the loan information were deleted from all the banks. So, and at the same time, all your bank accounts are deleted, so no one knows how much money you have in the bank. We finished. At the same time, there is no information about who you are because your name was erased from the database of the government. It's the ultimate attack that we are afraid from. We are moving to the cloud, but this is the danger. Cyber criminal can go and attack our system if we are not careful and we don't have the proper controls in place. And this is the next session. We are going to be speaking about cyber criminals and how can we go and stop them. So please subscribe in my channel and join our next session because we are going to discuss this very important issue related to cyber crimes. Now, before I finish, I know I'm speaking for the last 1 hour and it's very dark and becoming really scary to see all these types of fraud and corruption and scams. But before we leave, let me leave you with a good story. This story is about a painting in the Louvre Museum called Checkmate. In this painting, you can see that the human is playing against the devil, the chess game. And it looks like a human is actually losing the game and the devil is going to win. But there is a chess master who visited the museum and he noticed something very interesting. He noticed that actually it looks like a human is losing the game, but the reality is not. Human had one move to make, and if he will make the right move, he will win the game. But the question is, what is that move? If this human will not figure out that move, he will not win. And it's the same for you. For you as certified fraud examiner, as financial professionals, as accounting executives, we are trying to fight all these criminals. We are in war against financial criminals, against these individuals who are doing different types of money laundering, fraud, corruption. For us to win the game, we need to know the next move that we need to take to stop them, to catch them, and to take action against them. So it's up to you to gain the knowledge, the skills for you to be able to win in the game of finance and stop criminals before they do the fraud or after they do the fraud and take the proper legal action against them. Thank you so much for attending the session. I hope that you enjoyed the session related to financial crime, and I will see you in our future sessions. At the end, I would like to say thank you for our sponsor, 10 Intelligence, for sponsoring this amazing session and all these sessions that we are delivering this year. Until next time, be safe and keep fighting the fraudsters.